Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the vast and volatile landscape of Eastern Europe, few places carry as much symbolic and strategic weight as Crimea. For more than a decade, the peninsula has stood at the center of one of the most consequential geopolitical conflicts of the 21st century. Once portrayed as an unshakable stronghold, Crimea is now facing pressures that many analysts believe could redefine the future of the region. Today, we examine why Crimea is described as being on the edge, and why recent developments have sent shockwaves through Moscow and beyond. Crimea's importance goes far beyond geography. It represents history, identity, military power, and international law all colliding in one place. Since 2014, when Russia took control of the peninsula, Crimea has been transformed into a heavily fortified military zone. Naval assets, air defense systems, and logistics hubs turned it into what Russian officials often described as an impenetrable fortress. For years, this perception shaped both military planning and global diplomacy, but wars evolve, technology changes, strategies adapt, and assumptions that once felt permanent can suddenly begin to crumble. Over the past several years, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia has intensified in ways few predicted. What began as localized fighting expanded into a full-scale confrontation that reshaped alliances, economies, and global security thinking. Crimea, long viewed as safely behind Russian lines, has increasingly become part of this evolving battlefield reality. This shift alone marks a historic turning point. Military analysts note that modern warfare is no longer defined solely by front lines. Precision systems, intelligence coordination, long-range capabilities, and information dominance have blurred the line between rear areas and active combat zones. Crimea's geographical isolation, once considered an advantage, now creates strategic vulnerabilities. Supply routes, ports, and bases that once ensured dominance are now under constant scrutiny. The psychological impact of this change cannot be overstated. For years, Crimea symbolized stability and control in Russian strategic thinking. Its naval facilities in the Black Sea supported operations far beyond Ukraine, influencing energy routes, regional security, and diplomatic leverage. Any perception that this control is being challenged sends ripples throughout the Kremlin's decision-making structure. International observers have noted that pressure on Crimea represents more than military calculations. It strikes at the narrative of permanence. When a territory portrayed as secure begins to feel uncertain, the implications extend far beyond the battlefield. It affects morale, credibility, and long-term strategic planning. At the same time, Ukraine's approach has evolved significantly. Rather than relying solely on mass troop movements, Ukrainian strategy increasingly emphasizes precision, intelligence integration, and adaptive tactics. This approach reflects broader trends in modern conflict, where effectiveness often depends more on coordination and timing than sheer numbers. The world has been watching closely. Western governments, regional partners, and neutral observers all understand that what happens in Crimea sets precedents. The principle of territorial integrity is not an abstract concept. It shapes how conflicts are interpreted and responded to globally. Crimea's status challenges international norms, and any shift in its situation carries global significance. For civilians, the situation is deeply personal. Life in and around Crimea has been shaped by uncertainty for years. Movement restrictions, economic changes, and political pressures have altered daily routines. Behind every strategic analysis are ordinary people navigating a complex reality, trying to maintain normalcy amid ongoing tension. Their experiences remind us that conflicts are not only about states and armies, but about human lives caught in between. The Black Sea region itself has become increasingly contested. Maritime security, trade routes, and energy infrastructure all intersect here. Any instability in Crimea directly affects neighboring countries and international shipping lanes. This interconnectedness explains why global reactions to developments around Crimea are swift and intense. Diplomatically, the situation places enormous pressure on decision makers. Calls for restraint compete with demands for accountability. Sanctions, negotiations, and military assistance are debated in parliaments and councils around the world. Each decision carries risks, not only for Ukraine and Russia, but for the wider international system. Another critical dimension is information warfare. Competing narratives attempt to shape public perception. One side emphasizes control and resilience. The other highlights vulnerability and change. In this environment, information becomes a strategic tool, influencing morale, alliances, and long-term outcomes. Understanding the conflict requires separating verified developments from exaggerated claims and propaganda. What makes this moment particularly significant is timing. Years into the conflict, fatigue is visible across global audiences. Yet moments like this reignite attention because they suggest movement after long periods of stalemate. When analysts describe Crimea as being on the edge, they are not predicting immediate outcomes. They are recognizing a shift in dynamics that alters calculations on all sides. Historically, turning points are rarely obvious in real time. They become clear only in hindsight. But certain indicators stand out. Increased focus on previously secure areas, adjustments in defensive postures, and heightened diplomatic messaging. Crimea currently reflects all of these signals. For the Kremlin, this represents a complex challenge. Maintaining control while managing domestic expectations and international pressure requires careful balancing. Strategic overconfidence can be costly, yet visible weakness can be equally damaging. This dilemma explains why developments around Crimea resonate so deeply within Russian political circles. For Ukraine, the moment reinforces a long-held position that time, adaptation, and resilience matter. Sustaining national resolve while navigating international partnerships is not easy, yet Ukraine's persistence continues to shape the conflict's trajectory, even under immense pressure. The broader lesson here extends beyond Ukraine and Russia. The situation in Crimea illustrates how modern conflicts are fluid, multidimensional, and deeply interconnected. Military power alone does not guarantee permanence. Legitimacy, adaptability, and global perception all play crucial roles. As we look ahead, uncertainty remains. No single development will decide the fate of Crimea overnight. But the current phase represents a clear shift from assumptions of permanence toward questions of sustainability. That shift alone qualifies as a turning point. The world is watching not because answers are clear, but because the implications are profound. Crimea stands at the intersection of history and the future, symbolizing how power, identity, and international order collide in the modern age. In the end, this story is not just about territory. It is about how conflicts evolve, how narratives change, and how moments once thought impossible gradually enter the realm of reality. Crimea on the Edge is not a conclusion. It is a chapter, one that may define the direction of global politics for years to come. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay thoughtful, and we'll see you in the next video.